Hey, well tonight I'm angry because New York is spending almost $500,000 per year per prisoner in jail. Now I know this sounds like an incredible number, so I will say it to you one more time. The cost for the Department of Corrections to keep one prisoner in jail in New York is $450,000 per year. Now you may wonder, why don't we just give these guys $300,000 a year as a salary, and I'm sure they would be happy with that and would stay out of jail, and we would save $150,000 per inmate. But I'm sure that you believe that I am joking. I am not. This is the report that I'm quoting. This is from the New York City Comptroller, Scott Stringer, and it's the fiscal year 2022 agency watch list for the Department of Corrections. The department has been under review for the last 5 or 6 years because they are one of the few departments that continues to spend money without showing any results. This report came out just recently, and I'm going to run you through a few of the salient points. Obviously, I will link to it below. You can read the report at your leisure in its true, full, horrifying detail. But I've showed you the title page. This is the summary page. They attempt to deflect blame by pointing out that the number of prisoners has fallen faster than they would expect, and therefore it has cost more per prisoner. But if you look at the end of the first paragraph, you can see that as of fiscal year 2020, the Department of Corrections employed 1.6 correction officers per inmate and spent an average of $217,000 for every incarcerated person. But this is less than half of the cost that the Department of Corrections incurs because they have all kinds of other expenses, including pensions and employee fringe benefits. And you can see in the last paragraph, in fiscal year 2020, the city spent an additional $230,000 in non-direct costs, that's the DOC costs, for each person in custody, bringing the full annual cost of incarceration to $447,000 a person. I know this seems incomprehensible. When I saw these numbers, I could barely believe them myself. But the truth of the matter is that many of these entities, just like GM back in the day, are spending so much on pensions for previous employees that it actually dwarfs their current operating budget. Here's a table that gives you a summary of where the money's going. And you can see that fiscal year 17, 18, 19, 20, estimates for 21 and 22 are on the top. When you look at this table, a few things stand out. The first thing is that overtime has gone down. It's actually half of what it was. That is per officer, half of what it was 4 years ago. The number of personnel, civilian personnel, has stayed about the same. The number of uniformed personnel has dropped from 10,800 to 7,000, and yet the budget is about the same. I mean, I know that in the past I've heard figures of $80,000 to $100,000 per prisoner, but the Department of Corrections in New York is spending $450,000 every year per prisoner. And that's not just to keep the prisoners incarcerated, because this money is not being spent on the prisoners. It's not being spent on their quality of life, on their food, on their medical care. It's being spent on the system. The system is completely broken. If it's costing $500,000 a year to incarcerate a prisoner, can you imagine the profit that somebody is making? The cost per prisoner should be something in the order of $50,000 a year. Instead, it is 10 times greater. Now, I'm sure that a lot of you are looking at this and thinking, well, surely the number of prisoners has gone up, and that accounts for this increase. No, this is not true. You can see, this is from the same report, and you can see admissions on the top line and the average daily population on the next line, along with total spending per incarcerated person on the bottom. And you can see that since fiscal year 2017, total spending per incarcerated person has gone from $275,000 to $447,000. This is an increase of almost 50% in just 4 years. And this is while the average daily population has gone from almost 10,000 to just over 5,000. This is a prime example of how inefficient government is. And the problem with government and its spending generally is the fact that they are not spending their own money. They're spending our money, and therefore they have no incentive to be economical. They have no incentive to be frugal. They have no incentive to reduce costs. And here we are where it's costing almost $500,000 per prisoner. Is this going to cause us to wake up? Does it have to reach $1 million a prisoner? $10 million a prisoner? Is there a number at which we balk? It seems ridiculous. Most of these prisoners, I would bet money, would be happy to be gainfully employed for $150,000 a year, $225,000 a year, which is half of the amount that we're spending on them now. This report should be read by you. It's very short. It's only 3 or 4 pages, but in a microcosm, it shows you the problem that we have with government in general. There is no incentive to be frugal. There is no incentive to be sensible with our money. It is costing $500,000 for each prisoner in the Department of Corrections in New York. Multiply that by 50 states, you start to see why the problem is completely out of control. The problem is big government, as always. As Reagan warned us about 40 years ago, government is even bigger today. $500,000? Please, let's wake up.